most of the songs I find it very interesting. So my first question to Sully is like, what was the inspiration behind hosting this event? You mentioned that you guys have this Metaverse Christian Fellowship once a month, but you want to do this a little bit different. Like, what was the inspiration behind?
Basically, actually, we initiate our events and also activities actually based on our objective of the fellowship. Our objective of the fellowship is mainly based on mission, network, and resources sharing. And I hope that through these activities, we still can connect to the user in Metaverse and even Christians inside or outside Metaverse. And through the sharing, actually, we can actually draw friends to listen to the songs, Christian or non-Christians. And by sharing, we actually can learn better and faster, and we can actually share thoughts. And maybe like us here, we actually can discuss and explore further any possibility in the future. This is our main intention in the beginning.
And Grace, you actually wrote an article of this event, right? Reporting the things you witnessed, and it was published by one of the Christian page on Facebook. So my second question here is actually like, how did people receive it? Surely there's like voice of like negativity, right? Like how do people like receive it, like generally?
Actually I did receive some different feedbacks. I would say not many yet, because it's just published. Some actually very impressed and very keen to explore more. Some actually even tried for themselves and shared with me their songs after they have read the articles.
Oh wow!
Some is overwhelmed, and finally now they shared with me that previously they can't actually write or compose any songs, but now they finally get to do so, and they feel very happy with that. Some, after reading the articles, they went to visit the exhibition hall and listen to the songs. Some did give me encouragement, but also asked us to actually explore with cautious. And I even received some feedbacks that they told me that there's no life in AI, and the conversation ends there. So so these are actually a varieties of feedbacks that I have received so far. I'm not too sure of those feedbacks that I have yet received. Just I'm sharing.
Okay, so I guess I want to throw this question to maybe Dr. Justin, right? So Grace says about like, there's people saying that, AI doesn't have life. We have to take this caution. And I actually have this question on, when we were writing songs to God, I wrote songs before, but as a composer, we would have this like very thing we will say, like, this melody, it's God inspired melody music. That's why I write this to God, this music to God. But when we're prompting this into the AI generators or the software, there's no life in it. Like it produces songs. Like Dr. Justin, anything you want to say about this? Is there anything you want to add?
Well, I mean, I'm not a music person, or I used to be a music person back in the day, but not a music person now. And I don't know much about composition and making songs, but one thing I do know is that in the music industry, right, in terms of pop music and doing music, a lot of stuff that's made is very, it's not as human as we think, if you know what I mean. I think that one thing I remember reading about is how with the AI, the possibility of AI creating music, that it's in that world that people are quicker to jump to, oh, how can we use this to make our work easier? And if we think about how, a lot of these pop songs are generated, there's oftentimes certain types of melodies, certain types of songs that people are looking for that I think are not like very from the heart in the way that songs might have been in the past. Although we can maybe argue whether songs written in a previous generation were so personal in that way. So I don't know. I mean, for me personally, I'm not entirely sure, because on the one hand, you want people to have the writing of a song, especially a worship song, out of a genuine encounter with God. But at the same time, we have to ask the question, is it not possible for God to work in the midst of any situation to speak through people. Like an example is preaching, right? Sermons. In SBC, we have a very particular way of preaching that Jonas learned about expository preaching. You must preach the text this way. But we know that at the same time, there's people who do very wrong sermons by our SBC standard, and people are still blessed by that. So the question is the medium as important, or is the possibility of God working in whatever circumstance more important, right? Is the way the song is made important, or is the fact that God can work through whatever means maybe the more important thing? But again, that's a question that is up for debate, and I think people will have different feelings about that.
Yeah, I think Dr. Justin pointed out a very we don't want to touch too much on this, right? But I want to ask, can AI generated music be called sacred music? Can it be considered as sacred music? So before we jump in that, right? When we talk about sacred music, of course there's a lot of different definition. So some would say it's simply music that is written for the church. Some define it as music one of the music genre. Most people would refer them as traditional church music. Where you can find them in you think you find them a lot in the high churches. And I think sacred music can also be defined as music or song that connects people to God. So whether which definition you the viewer think sacred music is, so I think we do want to ask this question, can AI generated music be called sacred music if the music generated meets the requirement of that definition, right?
To me, I think that with the correct prompts and content input, I believe AI can actually generate music that meets the technical and also the aesthetic criteria of the sacred music. But again, whether AI can generate any songs that is nearest to the requirement and definition of the sacred music, it's actually quite new to me. I mean, these questions, so I don't think so I can answer correctly. But they can suggest that for those who maybe studied sacred music field, I would suggest that you can try and maybe advises on this further. That will be better and more appropriate. This is my suggestion. I'm not too sure about Dr. Justin. Maybe I would like to hear from him.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't know if I'm the best person to ask about this because, well, first of all, I don't have a lot of experience in this sacred music area. And given that both of you are Methodists, if I'm understanding correctly, Methodism has a slightly more developed tradition of sacred music than, say, my background. Mine is very low church Protestant. I grew up with a lot of very contemporary music, and we didn't really sing many hymns because in the Korean churches, they do sing hymns, but in our second generation churches that were in English, we didn't really sing any hymns whatsoever. And I think that in my generation, there's more of a desire to go back to older music, to more sacred types of music. But again, for me, I'm not entirely sure because what exactly does sacred music mean? Of course, is it written for the church? Does it have to meet a certain style? One thing that I've spoken to Jonas about before is that in the Reformation with Martin Luther, there is a desire to get people to sing heartily because in much of the Catholic tradition before that, music was sacred music in that sense was what was played and people listened to it and people didn't sing along to it. So one thing Martin Luther is known for is taking the popular tunes and even bar songs and turning them into church music in a way that would get people to sing loud and sing along with them. So is that count as sacred music? Or another idea that comes to mind is if you have, say, a hymn writer or a sacred music writer who, say, turns away from faith at some point. I was looking this up, and there are a couple of people who come to mind in this, who wrote very famous hymns, who maybe turned away from the faith or suffered from depression and these things. Is their music then nullified or made less valid because they did turn away? Or I remember a few years back, there was a very big controversy about the song Healer, right? I believe you're my healer. They're like, oh, this guy faked his healing. But a lot of people really liked the music and they really were moved by the worship song. So does that become less than sacred music because it's found that there's some potential falsehood behind it? So for me personally, I have difficulty knowing how to define the idea of sacred music in this regard, because what exactly how exactly would we define it? And if the content is good and if people can sing with it, and if we say the spirit can use it, could it not be sacred music, depending on how we set up the definition for what sacred music is? But again, I'm not a sacred music person whatsoever, so I'm probably not the right person to ask about this.
I love like hearing from different views. So I guess this is why we're learning, right? So that leads me to my fifth question, right? Would God accept music that is generated by AI? Maybe the better question is that, is God more pleased with man's written songs than AI generated songs? Like I said, a lot of the composer would give credit to God for inspiring them music, melody, but how does that God inspired music be at play here, since AI can do most of the carry most of the load now?
That's a very good question. But I believe God actually sees our heart of worship and also our truthfulness during worship. And during the whole process, I also asked this question: can God inspire the person who key in the prompts and lyrics? And whether can God actually inspire the person to select the music? Ultimately, I think the focus lies back in the worshipper's heart. The worshippers actually give lives to the song itself and not AI. And we also must acknowledge that our focus of worship must always be our one true God. Yeah, this is what this is my view of this.
I think before like Dr. Justin can like share anything, maybe Grace, could you like boot up your screen? Maybe you can show us like how does the SUNO app, right? How does it works, right?
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Can you see it? Maybe I just give some example of how this whole process can be done on maybe a simple example. Okay, this is a SUNO app that we use to compose or generate a song. Any song, it can be Christian song, can be any songs. So we have tried to actually key in our prompts here. You see here, song description. Just key in our prompts here. Here I just put in a beautiful contemporary Christian songs, worship songs, based on Psalm 23 in the Bible. So this is how we can try in a simpler way that we click this button, create. After we click the button, the application actually can help us to generate maybe 2 variations of songs. Within now, I think 15 seconds. Yeah, still.
15 seconds.
I believe, it's about 15 to 30 seconds. I'm waiting for the songs to come up.
That's fast.
So so these are 2 variation songs that is actually proposed by this SUNO for us. Even they gave us the thumbnail and the name of the title of the song itself, the Shepherd Songs.
Yeah, they even like did the art for you in that 15 seconds.
But of course, this can be edited in another level if you are not satisfied with that. Yeah, after your selections. But I think for today, I think we just try. I just click the first one for you to listen. I'm not too sure. I haven't listened to this yet.
Okay.
So.
The Lord my shepherd is, in pastures green I find peace. Beside still waters calm, He restores my soul with ease. He guides me on right paths. For His name's sake I follow. Even in the darkest valley, no fear can make me hollow. Your rod and staff, they comfort. Your presence always near. My cup, it overflows. Your love erases fear.
Nice.
This is the first proposal. Maybe I'll try the second one.
Okay.
The Lord my shepherd is, in pastures green I find peace. Beside still waters calm, He restores my soul with ease. He guides me on right paths. For His name's sake I follow. Even in darkest valley, no fear can make me hollow. Your rod and staff, they comfort, your presence always near. My cup it overflows, your love erases fear. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my foes. You anoint my head with oil, your goodness overflows. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my foes. You anoint my head with oil.
Yeah, this is another proposal from AI.
Yo, that second
yeah.
proposal is it slaps.
Jonas reacted at the beat dropping.
Yo,
Like,
that beat drops. So nice.
Yeah.
To my understanding, that you can still do a lot of modification from that proposal, right? And you can just prompt, say, oh, you wanna do more adjustment to it, something like that.
Yes. We can try a few we can edit it after the proposal. We even can actually because just now I just asked AI to generate based on Psalm 23, but if you want, we actually can copy the whole Psalm 23 and paste it there under the description, and it will generate maybe more correctly for us.
Are you able to then like alter things like chord progressions at all, or anything a little bit more musically technical?
I haven't tried that actually. I haven't tried that. I believe it can be done because the version that I'm using is still a non-paid version. So I believe I can do more with the paid versions.
I mean, the idea of a song being generated very quickly is not that big of a deal, because sometimes you have people who talk about big hits that they made and they write them in like 5 minutes. And they say, this was the greatest song I ever wrote, and it came to me and I wrote it in 5 minutes. So it's not that different from something like that. But again, it's a different process, I guess. I don't know.
You know, can you imagine, like, if you're in a situation like David and you're being surrounded by your enemies, and you just like, you want to pop up, you have the SUNO app on your phone, and you want to express something, you need a song, and you just like prompt it. Yeah, I need a song right now. I don't. What's the implication of that?
Yeah. I mean, it's cool because it gives people who are not maybe as technically, in terms of music, able to do things like this, the chance to do things. But at the same time, you know, the fear is always that for those who are well trained in music, who spend a lot of time and energy making things, they say, well, if someone is making something that sounds better than what takes me like, you know, days and months to put together, then, you know, what's going on here? And that's always been the threat with AI in the creative space, whether it with regard to art or music and these kinds of things.
Yeah, I think back to the situation where we actually can do the selections, because AI can give us a lot of choices, options, and we play a very important role to select. Sometimes the music created is not so suitable, I find, sometimes, for maybe a Christian worship song, or maybe if it sounds not so smooth, then we can actually regenerate until a songs that we feel that is suitable, I mean, as gospel songs. So, yeah. So this is something we can do to select prompts, and also to monitor the content, because sometimes the words that they use, the sentence under the AI prompts may not be suitable. So we need to do some filtering. Yeah, this is some of my suggestions.
Okay. Actually, I want to ask both of you, like, how would you go as far as using this AI generated music? Maybe I can go first. I guess for me at this stage, right? Because I think it also depends on how people can, you know, take it, right? And also depends on the context, your culture. I think for my culture, I think at the moment, to the extent I can use this song like as a background. Of course, I do have to like check the theological stuff, right? Maybe make sure like nothing heretical, and then we can use it like as a background, enjoying music. when we're playing, doing some events program for the youth and stuff like that? What do you think?
I haven't tried that far yet, but I've heard of Christians brothers and sisters who use the song in church after their sermons, after the sermons as a responding hymn. So of course it's not sang by AI, it's sang by the congregations and also the worship leader, but this is what they have tried.
Wait, how did the congregation members say?
I'm not too sure.
Okay.
I wasn't there.
All
Yeah,
right.
but what I've know of is like the leader actually briefed the worship team and also the leadership that he's going to do this, and of course it's actually consent is actually granted before he do this in church. On another situation, I know of a conference. It's a mission conference where people from different countries gather to discuss and meet, and they actually shared one of the songs generated by AI as a responding song to the mission field. Yeah.
I think my impression, just kind of having gotten the tour of the whole of the space, was that I do appreciate it when somebody comes with their own lyrics and they want the music to be a certain way. For a lot of people, if they don't have a particular musical background, maybe they won't ever have a chance to try to make a song with it. And so the ability to do so is a very, I think it's a meaningful thing. I think there's a sense of like devotion to it, of personal worship in trying to offer something up of one's own experience and the words that one gives with a little bit of an AI twist to it that has something meaningful and important. And I think with the first set of songs, Grace had mentioned that it was generated by youth. And I think that even the idea of saying you too can bring something and offer it to the Lord, it's not like you're just doing a one-off, I generate and okay, I'm finished. But, putting a little bit of time and thought into it shows that although AI is the tool by which you are making these songs, it's not that the whole process is without any real human touch to it. It's that people who are there behind it are trying to guide it in a certain way that expresses maybe something that they want to be expressed. And I think that in itself is not a bad thing. It's not that we were saying just make up a random worship song and then we're just going to sing it. There's a guiding process behind it that people are a part of. And so I think there's something nice to that, and there's something sort of worshipful to that. But again, the idea of using it and how it's used is something that churches and a lot of people have to figure out for themselves. What does that mean for the writing of worship music down the line in the future?
I think Dr. Justin also point out a very good point. Like, I was reminded of David in a lot of his psalms, right? David is such a talented musician, and although he is like that, he can produce songs very quick. There's some of the psalms, right? When you look at it, it has mentioned that it is in the tone of something. So he also like kind of borrowed some of the existing music. He just like fill in some new lyrics on it. So he was kind of in a way he was like copying some of the tone. Some of the people know how to sing this tone, music, melody, and then changing it, the lyrics.
I do think that we have to ask our church music friends what they think about these kinds of songs, if they were to sort of analyze and break it down, what they think about it, just to get a sense of, from a musician's perspective, how do they listen to and hear that song? What do they see as a pattern? I'm kind of curious about that type of reaction, not in the sense of let's get people in to sort of bash the music, but how do they hear it and what do they see going on when they're listening to this music? So I'm kind of curious about that perspective too.
Yeah, I think I agree with Dr. Justin for his suggestion, because I personally found that for those who are from the music background, they have different perspectives that we need to listen to. And also we can actually have a dialogue, means it's like they can listen to what we have tried, and these are the production that we have produced. And from their perspective, we will listen to the theological analysis of how can it be done better or correctly. I think this is very important that we can have dialogue from both sides so that we can do it better in the future. Yeah. So the fear of AI, call it the fear or the concern of AI, is actually, for me, I felt that it's actually unfamiliarity, and also usually the terminology of AI carry the image of robots and also super intelligence machine rather than collective human intelligence content that is actually designed to help us in our daily tasks, etc. So I mean, yeah, for me, I felt that maybe we need to learn more, read more, to find out more, to get us familiarized. Then we'll reduce some concerns on the AI-related topics.
I think my sense with this, whether Suno app or other AI tools, is that the use of AI in helping us do our work better, AI as a tool to make us more efficient, is something that's becoming more and more the norm. So in the working world out there, there's a lot of people who are using AI to organize, to clarify. When we talk about writing apps, we have like Grammarly and these kinds of things that are automatically fixing grammar to make ourselves more clear. And I think that to some degree, these tools are just helping us do things that we'd want to do, but in some way making us better. And so even with something that seems almost untouchable, like say sermons, exegesis, right? This week at SBC, we have a conference, and one of the papers that's being given is by our new lecturer on the topic of, can AI exegete scripture? And the question is, well, what do we mean when we ask that question? Can AI read the Bible better than us? Can AI preach a sermon better than us? But at the same time, we know that AI is never going to preach a sermon. And I don't think any pastor I know would just say, hey, ChatGPT, write a sermon for me, and I'm going to preach it as is, right? Even if they're trying to do that, they'll still edit it to try to make it their own. But again, to what degree is that possible, and how do we do it in a way that's efficient so that actually maybe our sermon is better? Maybe if we use AI to help preparing our sermons, we might actually have a more clear sermon that can be where the points are more obvious. Or if your AI is helping you to understand certain texts, it can highlight things that maybe in your preparation you might have missed out on. So I think understanding where and how to use it is an issue. So like at SBC, we don't say, if you're writing a paper, you cannot use AI whatsoever. But if you're writing it, make sure to cite where and how you've used it. And for things like organization and structure, it can actually be very helpful. So how do we know how to use it and provide guidelines so that it's not just the AI is doing all the work, but that where we can use it in the right way and bring out maybe the best of what we can do, versus say viewing it as this unfamiliar tool that is doing everything and replacing people in a way that only creates fear in people who are unfamiliar with the technology.
Man, Dr. Justin, I love your answer.
Yeah, me too. Thanks.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that I use AI in my sermons, not yet at least, but I could see the use in organization. Maybe I'll use it when I'm trying to write my book a little bit better. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I think that's all the time we have for today. Just want to say thank you to Grace again for showing us, to taking us, hosting this event, and just taking us on the tour. Give us an exposure and basic understanding on how this all AI generated music, how it works. And I believe a lot of viewers now today, you get to, as you see this YouTube, I guess, you get to know a little bit better. And also from Dr. Justin's sharing, I want to thank you for giving us some insight of, hey, how can we use this in a better way? And of course, most importantly, we still can humble ourselves to learn so much more, to be exposed, to see a little bit more, so we can come up with something that is pleasing offering to God as well. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Justin.
Thanks for having us. Thanks, Grace, for showing us all the cool things that you guys are doing.
Yeah.
Welcome. So glad to have you.
And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.